Coming up on Network Africa, African leaders call for an immediate ceasefire in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sudan to form a new government after the army regains the capital, Khartoum. Plus, African leaders pay tribute to former Namibian leader Sam Nujoma, who died at the age of 95. Hello and welcome to the program this week. I'm Layo Olarinde. Let's begin in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where Congolese authorities are putting at least 75 soldiers on trial for fleeing the advance of M23 rebels into the eastern province of South Kivu. The military prosecutor's office says the soldiers are also on trial for violence against civilians, including murder and looting. The 75 soldiers facing trial were arrested for fleeing the front line after Inyabibue's capture. They are also accused of rape, killings, looting, and revolt. Others have been arrested further south on the same charges, and they're expected to join them in the dock. Provincial Army spokesperson Nestor Mavudisa said the rogue soldiers would be punished, calling on the population to remain calm. In the meantime, leaders from Eastern and Southern Africa are calling for an immediate ceasefire in Eastern Congo, where rebels are threatening to overthrow the Congolese government. This was at a summit on the DRC crisis in the Tanzanian city of Dar es Salaam over the weekend. The leaders are also urging Congo's president to directly negotiate with the rebels. President Felix Tshisekedi, who attended by video conference, has previously said he would never talk to the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels he sees as driven to exploit his country's vast mineral wealth. A communique at the end of the talks urged the resumption of direct negotiations and dialogue with all state and non-state parties, including M23. The rebels seized Goma City, that's the biggest in the eastern region of Congo, following fighting that has left nearly 3,000 people dead and hundreds of thousands others displaced. The unprecedented joint summit included leaders from the East African Community Bloc, of which both Rwanda and Congo are members, and those from the Southern African Development Community, or SADC, which includes countries ranging from Congo to South Africa. Kenyan President William Ruto, who's the current chair of the East African Community, told the summit that dialogue is not a sign of weakness and the lives of millions of people depend on it.
An immediate ceasefire in eastern Congo, where rebels are threatened.
The time for action is now. The lives of millions depends on our ability to navigate this complex and challenging situation with wisdom, clarity of mind, empathy for the millions whose lives and livelihoods have been plunged into uncertainty. Excellencies, I am confident that you agree with me that dialogue is not a sign of weakness. It is a testament to our collective wisdom and strength, both as leaders and as communities. It shows our capacity to articulate issues patiently and clearly, listen to each other, consult comprehensively with a common goal in mind, and negotiate patiently until we reach a better outcome than the bitter results of bloodshed.
Still on the DRC crisis, UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk is warning of the risk that the violence in the eastern region poses, and it could escalate throughout the Great Lakes sub-region following the takeover of Goma City by the M23. Addressing a special session of the UN Human Rights Council, the High Commissioner said if nothing is done, then the worst may be yet to come for the people, but also beyond the country's borders.
I've been following the human rights situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo closely for many years. And what we see today worries me enormously. My office has long been sounding the alarm bells about this crisis, and I'm deeply disturbed to see the violence escalate yet again. If nothing is done, the worst may yet to come for the people of the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, but also beyond the country's borders. The risk of violence escalating throughout the sub-region has never been more acute. Once again, civilians are trapped in a spiral of violence in this overwhelming conflict. Since 26 January, almost 3,000 people have been killed and thousands have been injured, and these numbers are probably much smaller than what has really happened. I'm horrified by the spread of sexual violence, which has become an appalling feature of this conflict for a very long time. And it is likely to worsen in the current circumstances, and I feel for the victims and the survivors who I've met when I was there last year. I've always been struck by the fact that the population in Eastern Congo is suffering terribly, while many of the products we consume or that we use, such as our mobile phones, are created using minerals from the east of the country. We are all implicated in this. I call on all parties to lay down their arms, to resume dialogue within the framework of the Luanda and Nairobi processes. We must ensure in these processes that there is a meaningful participation of women, that's guaranteed. In the meantime, all parties to the conflict must respect international human rights law and international humanitarian law. The M23, the Rwandan forces, and all those supporting them must facilitate access to humanitarian aid. In these circumstances, it's crucial to establish the facts and bring the perpetrators to justice. An independent, impartial investigation must be undertaken into all the violations and abuses that were committed by all parties, and I offer my office's support in this regard.
Well, joining us now for more on the crisis in the DRC is Dr. Okwe Okwala, African Affairs Analyst, who joins us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
It's always my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're seeing African leaders calling for an immediate ceasefire in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In your opinion, can this really be achieved?
Well, the persistent violence and conflicts in the DRC has caused so much problem, economic problem, environmental degradation, poverty, and also what. So, and every effort should be made to bring it to an end, and in temporary at least to achieve a ceasefire for the meantime. And I think it can be achieved if concerted efforts are made. If African leaders and the world leaders can provide a platform for the March 23 movement, rebels, and the government, and every other person that is involved in it, to have a discourse and at least pause the war, have a ceasefire, have a discussion, and help to resolve the problem in the interest of the people of that country and indeed the people of that region. And pressure to achieve this, they have to bring pressure to bear on Paul Kagame, who is the major supporter of the March 25 rebel, the March 23 rebel, that's M23 rebels. So yes, it can be achieved, but not just by mere pronouncements or soapbox oratory, but by making sure that walking the talk, applying pressure on both the government and especially the rebels, the M23 rebels.
Well, over the weekend, we saw, regional bodies coming together, the East African Community and also SADC, Southern African Development Community, coming together in Tanzania to discuss the crisis in the DRC. Aside, coming together and discussing this, aside the summit, what more can these regional bodies also do?
There are tools they can use. They can use financial tools, they can use diplomatic tools, and they can use political tools. They can apply pressure on those who are supporting the rebels. And they can also apply pressure on government to make certain concessions that are necessary for the war to end. Also, I mean, they can also, the allies, like, Britain has announced that have warned Rwanda that continues to support the rebels may cost them the $1 billion of aid they get from Britain annually. Yes, other countries, US has also made pronouncement, but these things need to be followed with actions. These are the only way that they can achieve it. It's not just by talking about ceasefire and all that. It's by applying pressure, by providing the platform for discussion, and by taking some economic measures. And again, sometimes it may also require, sending troops to, make sure that certain actions, they don't go beyond certain boundaries in this conflict, both sides. Thank you.
All right, then we'll leave it at that. Dr. Okwe Okwala, African Affairs Analyst, thank you for speaking to us on the program.
It's always a pleasure.
Away from the DRC, a total number of 349 pilgrims from 5 states and the FCT in Nigeria are currently at the Holy Land to pray for peace and stability of the country. One of the representatives of the Nigerian Christian Pilgrim Commission, Olubunmi Ayodele, who was part of the exercise to Mount Nebo, says the NCPC has provided a tour guide and other amenities to ensure that every place visited is safe and secure.
Pilgrims from Lagos and other states, including Osun, Ekiti, Oyo, Kwara, and the participants from the Federal Capital Territory arrived safely at Jordan Airport after a 7-hour trip from Lagos, Nigeria. From the airport, the team moved to their residential location in the city of Amman, Jordan. After relaxing, they converge for a Thanksgiving service just before the tour begins. The Lagos State Special Advisor on Christian Matters speaks about divine encounters to the people.
When Elijah was to be taken from Elisha, when he wanted to cross to the other side of the Jordan, the people are waiting that let's see what happened to Elijah, one of his followers. And when Elijah departed, they were waiting, they want to see the result. How Elisha will come back to the other side of the Jordan. And when he got there to the bank of the river, the privilege that he had when he collected that mantle, the Bible says he used that mantle and the Jordan departed. And they said to themselves, the spirit of Elijah has descended unto Elisha, and they bowed their head for Elijah. See, you have been coming, or this is the first time of coming here. I want to say to you, your head will be submitted. In the name of Jesus.
Daily itinerary is reeled out, and the people are also encouraged to seek assistance when needed.
We don't want you to suffer in any way. Some of us, our rooms were very cold yesterday night. I had to go round, and today I believe that it was better overnight. Please, any complaint that you have, always ensure that you tell your leaders. Please, it's very, very important.
Then everyone moves out to join their bus for a tour to Macairos, where John the Baptist was said to have been beheaded. Those who have the fortitude take a long walk to the hilltop stronghold of Herod the Great, and the people engage in prayer.
Spiritually, I know all your legs.
Over 300 pilgrims are here, and the representative of the NCPC says all necessary things have been done to ensure safety for all.
So far, so good. We've had a very pleasant process all the way from Lagos. We arrived safely without any form of incidents or issue-based things that could affect our traveling arrangement. We settled down very well since yesterday morning. we took yesterday off for everybody to rest and settle down for today's visit, which we have started already as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, where we have the early devotion, took our breakfast, and we are at our first point of call at the top of the mount where John the Baptist was beheaded. This is reflected in Mark 6 from verse 17 to 29.
Part of the spiritual lessons that we learn from here is that we need to be determined and we need to be focused. Whatever the challenges that comes to our way, we should have it at the back of our mind that God is there for us, whatever we are passing through. If we can make it to this place, I believe whatever may be the challenges, we will see the end of the challenges. It's a matter of time.
The spiritual journey continues to Mount Nebo, a place steeped in religious significance, where Moses was said to have stood to view the promised land before his death. Day one of the tour was rounded off at the Dead Sea, also called the Salt Sea, bordering Jordan to the east and Israel and the West Bank to the west. The Dead Sea is 377 meters deep, the deepest hypersaline lake in the world.
Welcome back to the program. The Sudanese military is calling for diplomatic support for a new government that it says it wants to form after it recaptures the capital Khartoum from the rival paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The Sudanese army has been regaining control of areas in the city previously held by the RSF in recent weeks. Army leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan told a meeting of politicians who backed the army over the weekend that he would form a technocratic wartime government with a prime minister. He insists there would be no negotiations with the RSF. The two sides have been fighting for almost 2 years, a conflict that has forced 12 million people from their homes and left many starving. General al-Burhan also said there would be changes to the country's interim constitution, which would remove all references to partnership with civilians or the RSF, placing authority solely with the army, which would appoint a technocratic prime minister who would then appoint a cabinet. Tributes are pouring in from across the continent and beyond for Dr. Sam Nujoma, the founding leader of Namibia, who passed away on Saturday night. President Nangolo Mumba describes Nujoma's passing as a seismic event that has shaken the foundations of the Republic of Namibia, hailing him as the provider of maximum leadership, sparing no efforts to motivate each and every Namibian to build a country that will stand tall and proud. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu hailed Nujoma as a revolutionary leader with an unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and self-determination. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa described him as a gallant freedom fighter and a visionary icon who remains the father, hero, and leader of Africa. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa paid tribute to Nujoma's leadership in the liberation struggle, saying he inspired the Namibian people to pride and resistance against colonial and apartheid authorities. The first president of Namibia, Sam Nujoma, died 3 weeks after being hospitalized in the capital, Windhoek. He led the long fight for independence from South Africa in 1990 after helping to found Namibia's liberation movement known as the Southwest Africa People's Organization, SWAPO, in the 1960s. Well, after independence, Nujoma became president in 1990 and led the country until 2005. In Ghana, President John Mahama has banned state-funded first-class travel for government officials, including the cabinet ministers. President Mahama announced the ban when he witnessed the swearing-in of 17 of his new administration's ministers. The swearing-in ceremony was held at the Presidential Palace in Ghana's capital, Accra. Mr. Mahama says the ban on non-essential travel forthwith is to cut down on government expenditure, adding that any travel deemed to be essential must be cleared first by the Office of the Chief of Staff and will have to be undertaken in modesty, no flying first class. The president also cautions government officials against displaying extravagance, saying prudent use of state resources would help his administration to lift Ghanaians out of an economic hole and not to compound it further. With the latest swearing-in of 17 new ministers, Ghana now has a total of 42 ministers, including sector and regional ministers. The proliferation of artificial intelligence in many activities today is a hallmark of innovation. Its incursion into the creative space has, however, been a subject for debates. Our next report takes a look at AI's presence or lack of in the Nigerian music soundscape, popularly known as Afrobeats.
This early January, AI-generated video of a purported new single by incarcerated R&B legend R. Kelly got the music world in a buzz. The delivery, the voice and lyrics is almost reminiscent of his musical genius. However, this is 100% product of artificial intelligence.
A storm in my soul when no calm will show.
It stands as perhaps the most glaring display till date of what AI is capable of in the music industry. Back in Nigeria, the use of the tech tool has permeated many industries, and it's inevitably getting into the Afrobeat space. Here, music coach and teacher is demonstrating the effectiveness of AI in Afrobeat basics. And volunteers within minutes have created original music. Some of these guys have never tried music production until this day. Here is music producer and sound engineer Bolaji Williams, popularly known as Phase Up. His long list of credits includes works with Burna Boy in the music and works on the Black Panther, Wakanda Forever soundtrack in the movie Lane. For him, he believes AI can only work on the periphery of the arts, especially in Afrobeats, for specific reasons.
Afrobeat does not sound like one type of music. Country music sounds like one type of music. The moment you hear the rhythm, the bass, the drum line, you already know this is country music. Reggae music, the moment you hear tika, tika, you already know it's reggae. You understand? Hip-hop, the moment you hear you understand. But Afrobeat is rhythm, drum line, shakers, different moods. But what makes Afrobeat is the percussion, and all the time the percussions are always playing different things, different rhythms, but it's still the same sound, and that has been very, very difficult for AI to recreate. Music has soul, music has spirituality. These are emotions of a creative that has been brought into light, and I think that's something that's very difficult for AI to create as well. So when you're using AI for anything music, it just gives you the final product, which we call the wave file. It just give you one file. Now, unlike when you're producing in the studio, you have access to everything. You have access to every sound, you have access to every channel. You can tone something down. It's too much here. This one is good here. Let me bring this one here. You can't do all the arrangement with AI. AI just comes and gives you, why? This is the answer to what you requested. It's either you like it or you don't like it. If you don't like it, you tell it to create another one.
Even at that, he admits AI is already making impressive incursions into some other creative spaces.
The people in the movie industry, gaming industry, what else again, they've been enjoying AI. Because sometimes when they are creating sound for their content, it's not necessarily Afrobeats. So they can create sound from AI, or they do most of the times. Yes, a lot of hats that you hear on TV, the soundtrack is usually AI. They can. It's easy to also generate Foley sounds for movies via AI. But it's difficult to generate anything Afrobeats, that I'm sure.
Nigerian Afrobeat is gaining global attention, and recently singer Tems bagged a second Grammy trophy. Many believe it is only a matter of time before AI is adapted to suit the creativity behind the music genre, and its use then becomes the order of the day. Eddie's award Ayo Animation advised that the industry must be open when it happens.
30, 40 years ago, it used to be like live music that they produced in the studio. Then it now became, they had some analog stuff right there. Then it now became digital. Then once it becomes AI and everybody is making AI, you're going to have to adapt to the order of the day. You're going to have to adapt if that's what everybody is submitting. And even if it's AI that is helping to screen for nomination, so be it.
The usage of AI during the creative process in Afrobeat is at best minimal at this time. But if the effect of the tech tool in other industries anything to go by, it might be only a matter of time before it is perfected.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.